This is our November 5th public forum on court consolidation. Welcome. I'm hoping that we can answer most of your questions this evening. To start off with, I'm going to have Martina just kind of go over the process.
Hi, everybody. So we did start recording. This entire forum will be recorded. If anybody would like to go back and watch, anybody can contact me for it. I can provide that. So the mayor's going to start off with a brief overview again of the court consolidation. Then he and the board will open it up to any questions that anybody may have. I'm going to mute everybody while he's speaking. If you do have a question, there's a little icon up at the top for you to raise your hand. When you raise your hand, I will then go and let you know and select who the next person is to speak. You'll then have to unmute yourself and you can go ahead and ask your questions.
All right. Hello, everyone. So again, this is Mayor Gary Bassett. I'd just like to just give a 30-second update. And the update is, if you're not aware, the objection to the petition did not go through. So therefore, the village board will be setting a date for the special election at our next village board meeting on November 10th. That meeting has to be set within 10 days to 60 days from the filing of the petition. And so, that'll be under discussion at our village board meeting on November 10th. So that's the only update since the last time we met and discussed. What I'd like to do now is introduce Supervisor Elizabeth Spinzia to talk a little bit about what the town is planning.
Elizabeth, if you could just
unmute muted, Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I feel slightly awkward talking about this. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to lay this at the feet of Judge Sanchez, who has refused to meet with us at any time over the past year and a half, or participate in any of these discussions. I want to be really clear and state that the court clerks are the employees of the justices. The town merely funds them. I believe that they do need our agreement to hire them, but the clerks answer solely to the justices. I have absolutely no oversight of the court clerks, nor do the village board of the village court clerks. Judge Sanchez's refusal to participate in this discussion about court consolidation has been selfish in that there's no information for his court clerks about what our intentions are. So I lay that at his feet. Secondly, I'd like to say that if the court consolidation, I wrote a brief statement. I don't really know how much it says. I'm happy to read it and then tell you some of my philosophies about employment and how we treat our employees. But Rhinebeck has two municipal courts. We have a village and a town court, and they perform the same exact jobs, and they're right across the street from each other. This is an ineffective use of our resources. It's a duplication of services. Having one consolidated court will solve these problems and more. And the plan is really simple. The village will dissolve its court and transfer all active cases to the town court after the terms of the village justices are up in March of 2021. This plan will reduce our redundant operations to one office, to one schedule for court cases, criminal, vehicular and traffic, and anything else. They will have one set of reports to the state. We will have the monthly reports to the state, one full-time office to serve the public, and one secure and safe, totally up-to-date courtroom. And that means a courtroom that when people enter, they go through a metal detector. That means that there are officers there checking people, that furniture is bolted to the ground, that justices have a secure entrance to the bench, Um, Both elected village justices, Judge Kane and Judge Sanchez, will remain as town justices as long as they're elected by the public. We're required to have 2 justices by law. Each justice will have 1 full-time clerk to be employed by the town. And that justice will choose his full-time employee. Judge Kane has told us he's intending to bring his longtime part-time town clerk, Denise Murphy, to the Consolidated Court as a full-time benefited employee. Again, with absolutely no discussion, communication, or answers from Judge Sanchez, from our many, many, many requests. We don't know what his plans are, and this is at his feet. He has 2 clerks right now, a full-time clerk in the village and a part-time clerk in the town. He can choose who he employs, and we will pay that person fairly and with the benefit level that they deserve. If the town of Rhinebeck, we're very committed to our employees. I've created more full-time benefited jobs than any supervisor in recent memory. I do salary studies yearly, and the town board and I are committed to parity in wages for all of our employees. We provide our employees with fair, livable wages, good benefits, ample time off, and most importantly, a supportive and positive workplace. If court consolidation is not approved by the village and by you, the voters, even though the petitions were not accepted, they were faulty and thrown out. I can't hear you, Rick.
The petitions were not thrown out. There was no challenge ever mounted in state court, so the issue became moot. Oops.
Elizabeth, you're muted.
The petitions, the request for the town, the village residents for a permissive referendum. Can you explain what happened?
Basically, the challenge, there was no challenge ever presented in state court, and so basically the challenge is mooted, and the village can go ahead and set the date for the election.
Okay, but the petitions that were submitted were faulty, and the village did not have to accept them. The village is listening to the residents of the village and granting a permissive referendum, even though the petitions didn't warrant one. And I commend you for that.
How were they faulty?
Yes, they were faulty. They were absolutely faulty.
How?
There were no election districts on them. They were not in keeping with the law.
So they had names, signatures, dates, and addresses.
Correct, with no election districts.
So the will of the voters was not clear to the village?
The will of the voters did not follow the law, so they could have been thrown out, Roger. It was an improper petition. The village could have said, too bad, and they didn't. They are going ahead with a permissive referendum with faulty petitions, and I commend them for that. Yes, you did it improperly. It was done improperly. Judge Sanchez's attorney has said as much. So there will be a permissive referendum, but what upsets me most is this air of misinformation that's out there. And again, I lay this at the feet of Judge Sanchez, who will not come and discuss this with us. He will not participate. He will not protect his employees. He is making this about him, not about what's best for the town or the village. So I and the town board pledge to hire whoever the judge wants to hire at a wage that's fair, not less what they're making now, and with honoring all of their current benefit levels. For instance, if Judge Sanchez wanted to bring his village clerk over and she's been with the village for 12 years, we would consider her, I would move to consider her, and I believe the town board would, a town employee with 12 years of longevity. We wouldn't make her start from the beginning. But this is up to Judge Sanchez, not us. We have an amazingly well-crafted, a very elegant and a simple plan that's best for everybody. If anybody has any ideas how this could be better or why it doesn't work, I'd like to hear it from you, because I haven't heard anything that isn't filled with emotion and misinformation. And that's what I have to say, and I'm happy to take questions.
So those with questions, please raise your hand and Martina will recognize you and then you can speak.
Is this really about eliminating the office of the village justice or improving facilities for the town?
Who are you asking?
I'm sorry?
Who are you directing this to, Roger?
The mayor?
Yeah. Hi, Roger. I didn't see your hand. Repeat your question, Roger.
Sorry, raised my hand.
That's all right. Go ahead.
You know, a good, healthy part of the report concerned the facility upgrades that were recommended. So is this really about providing improved facilities for the town as opposed to court operation? Because by my assessment, the village court operates fine. It has full-time clerk. There's no disruption in service, unlike the town. And in my mind, the venue is, by the report's comment, equally fitting as the venue in the town court.
All right, so Roger, and we've discussed this in the past with you, but I will repeat, this is more than that. This is about improving services to all of our constituents, all of the constituents who need to use the court. And by consolidating the court, as Elizabeth had mentioned, we can make many improvements to that. Some of those improvements require security measures that will be made to the court to not only protect the court, but to protect the people in the court. So besides services and improvements to the customer portion of that and protection of the courts, it's really, that's the main genesis of driving to make this consolidation.
It's a Roger. Roger, these are not or statements, these are and statements. The village can save money and we can improve services for constituents and we can leverage grant money to be able to improve the court facilities at the town. These aren't or statements, these are and statements. We have a moment in time when we can do three really good things. And if we let the moment slip away, we're not going to probably see the grant money for the upgrades to the court. So all the taxpayers will have to handle that all by themselves. We'll continue to have two courts with redundant functions, with people not knowing where to go. While it's true that we have a full-time court clerk when she's on vacation, that turns into a problem. So what I'm suggesting to you is that trying to pit one idea against another is just basically, it's like a false premise. Basically, we can do all of these things and they're all good.
I don't think we can hear you, Martina.
Mary, go ahead.
You have to unmute yourself. Mary, we can't hear you unless you unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. My name is Mary Work. I moved here about a year and a half ago from Ulster County, where I was the family court judge for 12 years and the surrogate for 15 years in the family court and 12 years as the surrogate. as I listened to this, I focused in and I read your report on two things. One is the security issue, and the other is the handicap accessibility, because those were issues that we had to deal with in those courts. Are you required to become handicap accessible? So you're gonna have to do that. So you'd have to do that in two courts instead of one. Am I correct?
Oh, my God.
If we do not consolidate, Mary, yes, that is correct. Those improvements would need to be implemented in both village court and town court that are directly across the street from one another.
Right, I know. And how is that? Do you get any money from the Office of the Court Administration for that? Do you get any OCA money to do that upgrade?
Do you want me to answer it, Gary?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead, because they would be in, if we consolidate, it would be in the town.
There is Office of Court Administration money. Town Hall is handicapped accessible from the back. Our bigger concern is that there is no dedicated entrance. There is no metal detector. The chairs, while in a line, some of them can be picked up and thrown. There is no place to lock prisoners, and the judges don't have a secure access to their bench.
So is the other court handicap accessible as well? Are they both?
Yes.
There is a lift in the other court.
Okay, so the security is the issue. You need to get a metal detector?
We need a
Yeah.
secure, well, there are, as you're aware, as a formal judge, there's a whole list of recommendations for
Right.
court security, separate entrances with door locks, et cetera, et cetera. It all needs to be done to both courts.
And I would add that there's no conference space for judges and lawyers, nor is there any conference space for lawyers and their clients currently.
Yes, there's no privacy for clients to meet with their lawyers.
So is it figured into I saw that, I think the figure was $9,000 for extra security, which seems to me low. But is that figured in whatever, do you have a metal detector now?
No,
Okay, so you have to pay for that. Then you need two security people to,
Mary, we need more than a metal detector. We
Yeah.
need an envelope, a door to the outside, a separate space, and a door to the court with a metal detector and, a controlled entry into the court. We need a secure entrance from the judges to get from their chambers to the bench. We need a lock bar for prisoners. We need, a conference room for people before the judge and their counsel. There's a whole list of things that we should have and that we'd like to have, especially now, everybody's concern is public safety.
do you have a
And
holding
Mary-
cell for the prisoners in both?
No, we don't now, and we need one.
Yeah, I would
Right.
say.
And Mary, the metal detector itself is about $17,000. So that would be times two, plus the other improved security, which would be about $9,000, which would be times two as well for coverage. So we would be providing police coverage in two courts in addition to the physical improvements, which we just talked about.
Okay, thank you.
It seems irresponsible of us to upgrade two court facilities when we have the same two judges right across the street. They're beloved by the public, and the town and the village have a history of working together. This is a level of duplication of services that's not acceptable to me. Certainly as a taxpayer, both as a taxpayer and as an elected official.
Okay, Leonora, go ahead.
The referendum, is that going to be voted on by the village and the town or just the village?
Only village.
It's only village.
Okay, I worked in the courts for 22 years and I don't understand. I think that consolidating the courts is the best idea. It is silly to have two courts across the street from each other.
We're losing you, Leonora.
The most important thing is to make, yeah?
We're losing you. Your service is spotty.
Oops.
Anyway, you need to make the courts user-friendly for the litigants, and you need to make the courts safe for both the attorneys and the people, the end users of the court. And I think that consolidating the courts is is the best idea to get to accomplish those things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just add that the vote is not to consolidate. The vote in the village is to
Dissolve.
Gary, dissolve the village court.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why the village residents are voting.
that's fine. I think, okay, that's a distinction that I didn't appreciate, but it doesn't change any of my points about the importance of that.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly.
And Lenora, villages are not required to have courts. Towns are required to have courts. This was something that was put in place many years ago when the village thought the revenues would be beneficial. And reality is, the revenues do come in and you can't run it as a cost center, but the village loses $45,000 on average per year to maintain the court after subtracting after the income of the revenues.
Yeah, I mean, there's the economics of it, but there's also the safety issues for the court employees and the litigants who are in court and the attorneys, and there's also the public who's being served. And I think the primary question we need to ask ourselves is how are we best serving the public? And I don't think having these two courts across the street from each other is best serving the public.
We agree.
I agree completely. Thank you.
May, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is John.
Sean, you're muted.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. It's I don't know why we lost the connection, but I do want to take just a couple of minutes. But before I start, I'd like to acknowledge and welcome to the board this two new trustees, Trustee Slavy and Trustee Bertozzi. Welcome to the board. Hi. If I could spend a moment talking about the property tax rate impact, which appears on page 24 of the consultant's report, and specifically it's table number 9. And I'll just walk through it. The consultants have established a property tax rate currently with the court of $5. I'm going to round up $5.42. And I'm just talking to the village resident, okay? So I'm literally reading off.
The court does not cost the village residents a $5 mill rate, John.
I'm reading the report, Elizabeth.
It's not, that's inaccurate. Your mill rate.
Sorry, can we hear John's question or comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, well, it's really more just a comment or an understanding. I'm reading literally from page 24, table 9, Village and Town Justice Court, property tax rate impact. A village resident, according to the report, has a tax rate of $5.42. And that is with the court in the village. In the consolidated court model, that is reduced. The tax rate is reduced by just under 2% to $5.32. Again, I'm rounding up. So, of course, this is the tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value. If I have a $450,000 assessment, I'm paying right now $5.42, which works out to about $2,400, $2,434 in annual taxes with the court. Okay. Using the consultant's reduced tax rate of $5.32, that same assessed value, $450,000. Again, it's now $5.32 per $1,000 assessed. My taxes will go down to $2,392, which is an annual savings of $42.30, or monthly about $3.53. general agreement with that assessment?
I think on paper I agree, but you know that the tax rate is up to whatever budget the village and the town,
Oh, yes, Elizabeth, understood,
Yeah.
yes.
And I
understood.
also
I'm
want to
just using the-
qualify that the tax rate you're quoting is the total mill rate, not the mill rate just for the court, which is the point I was making before.
Yes, yes, it's $5.40. I mean, the property tax rate would be for the entire,
The point, John, is
budget,
that
or the
is
tax
yes,
value
the
levy.
point is that there's a savings. We don't know what the savings is yet until a budget is adopted. There's a savings for a better level of service. And I don't understand why you're against this.
I didn't say that I was against it. I was just walking through the chart from the consultant. And we actually can reach some sort of conclusion based on the consultant in terms of what it does potentially save the resident. And again, the village resident. And I understand that the 542, and then it becomes the 532 is the tax rate for all the entire budget or the entire tax levy. My point is that using these numbers, and even if the tax rate changes, if it's a little bit less or a little bit more, the delta, the difference between with the court and without the court is really pretty diminutive. But that doesn't mean that I'm for this or against it. I'm just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So when people like I might say, well, actually, you could use this table as a pretty good reference. It's a pretty good formula. And unless there's something wrong with the numbers that I've plugged in, you know, the assessment for a $450,000 house without the court will save that individual resident homeowner about $42 a year. That's the only point I wanted to make.
Hey, John Rossi, it's Lydia Slaby. Thank you. It's very nice to be on the board. It's nice to be acknowledged. I appreciate that. I think it's important to mention that even though those are the raw numbers quoted in the report, those do not include any costs that we were just talking about that are going to have to be incurred for construction in order to make the courtrooms safer and more user friendly. And so although yeah, it seems de minimis in a lot of ways. There's, future costs that are not part of that math equation that we're all going to have to incur. And then there's also the, non-economic impact of, having just the two court systems and the frustration to the, village and the town residents and those who have to visit them. But then there is also the impact in terms of, police and the rest of it. And so there's aspects of this that aren't to be found right exactly in that line item. Although I do completely agree with you that on its face, it seems de minimis. There are, it's sort of like the dartboard is bigger than the bullseye. And I think it's important to not forget that as we're thinking about this.
Okay, thank you. I have just two other points, and then I know there's other folks that want to talk. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with that particular assessment that I just presented. Hey, Rick, Trustee Lewitt, I may have misunderstood, but at the last forum, I thought that you might have said that it's been 2 years with an effort by the village board, the town, to work with Judge Sanchez, but I may have misunderstood.
I believe that this, we took some time before the consultant was hired, and at any point in the discussion, this goes back to somewhat with the town. I believe it was about 2 years. It was about this whole discussion started up about 2 years ago, and I know that Judge Sanchez. I know that there's formal communication with Judge Sanchez for about the last year or so, but I believe there was informal communication as well.
It's been
Okay, I just think
it's been closer to 2 years, and all of our requests have been denied. He's not at the table. He's not at the table now. These are his employees, and he's not here to support or answer or plan for this. I lay it at his feet.
Thank you. Rick, again, I just appreciate your response. I just wanted to make sure that folks understand the timeline. The RFP wasn't approved by the village to entertain the consultant until I think it was our July 2019 meeting and the actual RFP wasn't awarded until October of 2019 to Labarge to take on this project. So, in terms of a timeline, we couldn't have possibly started any serious conversation with Judge Sanchez until the consultants were engaged, and that didn't take place until October or November of 2019. And then just one last point, and again, Rick, if I misunderstood.
John, whenever it began, he has decided not.
Do you think it's?
I will. Rick, there was a discussion at our our August 2019 meeting. Anybody can go on Panda, just scroll to the very end of the meeting, and we actually do bring up some of the concerns about the court. And that's because Judge Sanchez had sent the mayor and all the trustees a fairly long email expressing a lot of his concerns about security. And of course, at that time, we were talking more about the downsizing and the relocation of the court. But it is on public record, and you can go to Panda, and I do raise it, and we do have a brief discussion. So that there was some conversation taking place with the judge.
When was this, Joan? I'm sorry, I stepped away.
Oh, that's okay. My final point is.
So can you tell me when this public discussion happened with Judge Sanchez?
It wasn't a public discussion with Judge Sanchez, Elizabeth. What I said was during the August 2019 meeting, and this is on Panda, and anyone could scroll to the very end and watch it. We did bring up a letter, or not a letter, but an email that Judge Sanchez had sent to the mayor, to the trustees, expressing concerns about relocating and downsizing the court.
Could you send it to me, please?
Well, you can just go on Panda and listen to it.
I'd like you to send me the email. It would be great if you could send it.
Yes, just for clarity, at that time, what we were not talking court consolidation, we were talking about reorganization of Village Hall to make it more efficient for people coming in to serve all the other offices. And that's why I want to reiterate why security isn't so important, because at that discussion, Judge Sanchez was there very much interested, as we all were, in security of our courts.
Yeah,
So it had nothing to do with consolidation.
It had nothing to do with consolidation.
But it did have to do with security, and security does show up in the consultant.
John, I'm just going to say again, Judge Sanchez has refused our dozens of requests to sit down.
I'm sorry, I thought we had an orderly meeting here, and I think.
Roger, you're not in charge. I'm answering this. Gary's the chair of the meeting. I'm actually stepping on him. I said Gary is in charge, and I'm actually stepping on him. Judge Sanchez has refused our dozens of requests to sit down, to work with us, to answer this calmly and unemotionally. He's made this about him.
My last question is, has Judge Sanchez refused? No, I'm just kidding. One last item, Rick. And again, if I misunderstood from the last meeting, just correct me. But I thought that you said that the courts really are not working. The village court is someone had, I think I made a comment, why fix it if it isn't broken? And I think you said something along the lines that the court is broken, or there are problems with it. But if I misunderstood, please just say so.
That's correct, John. Anytime that you have confusion about where people need to go, where you have the level of of duplicated services, that's a problem. It's a problem from the end user's point of view. That was made very clear to us, that the fact that there are two courts with two similar names, people wind up in the wrong place at the wrong time all the time. That's a problem. That's an end user problem that's been consistent for a long time. And I would also say that a system where you do have a redundancy of services, where the same thing is happening in two different places with twice the costs, that is broken.
Rick,
So please, everybody, you need to raise your hand and be recognized by Martina to speak.
oh yeah, even me, okay.
Please,
That's
follow
Brant.
so we can have an orderly discussion here.
I didn't know that I had to raise my hand, sorry. But
No, you don't, Brant. I'm sorry.
I don't think that the court confusion is a dilemma. I mean, yes, I've been in a gazillion meetings where we're downstairs at the clerk's office or whatever. People say, hey, are you having court tonight? We say no. I've been on the board for, I mean, I'm in my 8th year here, and I don't recall us dealing with this crisis before. If we were concerned about this, maybe we would post a sign on our window. I don't recall even having that discussion. You know, might go to cross the street, we have court tonight or whatever. But I mean, I understand there is an issue about court confusion. I mentioned this in the September meeting. I don't see it as a crisis. And I mean, if we have a venue, if this goes to referendum and it gets killed or whatever, the initiative, maybe we should have a venue consolidation discussion. You know, I think that Roger Kwan brought that up earlier. We have to deal with the, you know, I never get infatuated with something a position that I have. So at some point, you know, I worked really hard on the events code. I had to let it go. We created a steering committee. My lovely draft was really poisoned by a meeting with a bunch of angry people that killed it. I didn't get infatuated with that draft. We created a steering committee. We created an events code. It went through an entirely different process. I had to let it go. I mean, if this initiative gets, you know, squelched in a referendum, we've got to choose what we want to do to move forward. I mean, if that's a venue consolidation, a forum consolidation, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, I understand we have to carry documents across the street or whatever, but I don't know.
I think, Brant, for me, I would say I'd like to choose the best option first.
I'm going to.
That's true. No, that's fine. I mean, that's your position, and that's good. I'm just saying that if this, okay, that's true. That's what the discussion is tonight. So that's fair. I appreciate that comment.
I just,
Brent actually gives I think the point that I wanted to make, which was that for the 39 months that I served on the board, I just never knew that this was such a riveting issue, and like Brant, I just can't recall it coming up. But I'm going to mute, and I indulgence of my questions and comments, and glad that we reached an agreement on the assessment. And have a good evening, everyone. And again, welcome Vanessa and Lydia.
Thanks. Could I make a quick comment? As someone who's relatively new to, hi, this is Vanessa Bertozzi. I'm a new village trustee. I wouldn't consider this situation a crisis either. However, I think it's the responsibility of the government as elected officials to look for ways to streamline what we're doing and make things more efficient and more user-friendly. And we have an opportunity here to do that. It would only be a crisis, right, if something terrible happened in regards to safety, right? That fortunately has not happened yet. But now it is on our radar, and it's a weight I feel on my shoulders that we should make, whether it ends up being 2 courts or 1, they do need to make those safety improvements.
Okay. Cole, go ahead with your question. You can unmute.
Hello. So I guess my question is this, is the primary concern for the village and the town the infrastructure cost of having 2 separate courts versus, you know, the personnel cost? And if that's the case, then, you know, why isn't venue consolidation and keeping both a village justice and a town justice a viable option?
Hi, this is Gary. So in answer to your question, this is one of the reasons we hired LaBerge. We asked LaBerge to do a detailed, in-depth study of our courts and to give us a recommendation. Their recommendation, you know, either way, and it could have come down to saying, you know, just consolidate and the best of. But what LaBerge did was really give us the best choices, the best choice to make for both town and village court services. And as Rick mentioned earlier, you could pick whatever item you want, whether it's cost savings for the village, security for the court, end user conveniences. All of those play together, work together to providing a better system for everybody.
I guess the point that I'm making is if there's we'll see what happens with the referendum. But to the point I think Brant was making, if the public doesn't support this, it's not a consolidation. I think that Elizabeth pointed out that we're talking about dissolving the village court. And if that's not something that the public supports, is the village willing to pivot and move in a direction where you can do a venue consolidation?
I think all those options have to be on the table after we get through this first issue. What we're trying to do now is, and what's on the table, is to move forward with the referendum for the court combining the court into the town court.
And I need clarity on that, because I've heard consolidation, I've heard dissolving the village court. What are we talking about? Because they're two different things.
Yes, that's correct. And sorry for the misinterpretation, but the current referendum was to dissolve the village court into the town. So the village would no longer, you're right, the village would no longer have a court, but we would have the same court judges and their clerks. The only difference is they'd be representing the village in the town. Nothing, from my mind, nothing changes except where they're running the court from. Instead of running court from the village, they're going to run it from the town, and we get a lot of improvements based on that.
So to follow up on that, Gary, if in fact that's the case, isn't that just a venue consolidation?
No, because depends on how you look at it. Because then you're still running a village court, right? And you're still incurring all the costs to run a village court.
Right, but you were just saying that it would be the same system, just in a different place.
It's the same workload in a different place. So the judges will still be doing all of the court cases that they normally would do, but they're just doing it out of the court, out of the town.
I would need some, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I would need somebody to parse that out so I understand it better. That if it's effectively still, quote unquote, the village court running, but just in a different location, how that's dissolving the village court, as opposed to, or what dissolving the village court accomplishes more than just consolidating the venue.
Okay, I think I can answer this question for you. So, in dissolving the village court and sending all of those duties and the judges and the clerks over to the town side, it means that we eliminate all kinds of redundancies that we had before, and we improve the services to the people who are coming to court, because those two courts do not run concurrently. If Judge Sanchez has town court, he doesn't have village court. So with the dissolution, you have one court system, one computer system, one set of staff that services both judges. If you went for a venue consolidation, then you basically have two systems in one room or in one place. You still have all the same systems. Now you're just, what the different chair, or I shouldn't say, when you sit in the chair, it'd just be different. So if you maintain the two systems, that would be venue consolidation without all of the infrastructure and all the other savings that take place. Does that help?
It's helpful.
Or imagine the web page as a user who needs to use the court. You could go to one web page and see the hours of operation and all the information. If we maintained a village court and town court, but just consolidated the space that you're talking about, you'd have two web pages, two different sets of hours of operation, staffing, different forms, but at the same address. So that's one aspect that you would get that would get confusing, I think.
And I do think that it's worth noting, speaking as a former attorney, that judicial computer systems are not, your Office 365 subscription. So the fact that there are two different computer systems for the court, one's for the town court and one for the village court, is actually a true redundancy that doesn't make a great deal of sense, that is expensive in terms of manpower and expensive in terms of economics. So I do think that's worth noting as well.
Okay, Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to loop back also to the matter of venue consolidation. So, and in the report and maybe prior meetings, you mentioned that other districts local to us, the town of Red Hook, the village of Red Hook, are also looking at consolidation. Would it have the town and the village considered creating a common venue for the courts of Red Hook and Rhinebeck?
Elizabeth, would you like to answer that?
I'm going to answer that. If the village is so upset about this, a local consolidation is a step even farther. And yes, you know, I'm the vice president of the Supervisors and Mayors Association. We talk about it all the time. It would make more sense if Milan, Clinton, Rhinebeck, Red Hook, Tivoli were all sharing, but people aren't ready for it, Roger. You're not even ready for us to consolidate town and village. It absolutely would make sense to have district courts. And just like—
I didn't say a district court, I said a venue consolidation.
I disagree with a venue consolidation. I think that, yeah, I hear what you said. It doesn't alleviate the need to have these massive monthly reports, and it doesn't mandate that courts go on the same schedule, that the county is bringing prisoners up one day a month, that district attorneys are coming one day a month. It's kind of one would consider a venue consolidation without a consolidation of courts. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay, for me, I guess the math still honestly doesn't add up. Whether you call it consolidation or not, you're still doing the same caseload in the same facility. Time doesn't change.
You're actually saving a lot, Roger. You don't have to report to the state twice. You have to report to the state once.
You're just making a longer report, one longer report versus two shorter reports.
Hey,
One plus one still equals
it's the
two.
time. No, you're absolutely wrong. It's like having it's like having a paper route on the same street, and half the houses are on one, houses are on the other route, and you have to make a separate report. Instead of doing one report for one street, you're doing two reports. It's
And who does that benefit?
Roger, this is Gary. Roger, this is Gary. I'd like to also say that if you read in the study actually said that currently we hold 92 to 98 regular scheduled justice court sessions per year. That could be reduced to 72 regular held sessions per year moving forward by moving the village court, abolishing the village court into the town court.
So the town can direct the justices on their calendar? And
No.
No.
Roger, can you tell me why you're opposed to this, Roger, or what your real issues are?
Why? I thought you. Why am I on trial here? I'm just.
You're not. I'm asking you a question. I'm asking what your thoughts are. Why are you so opposed? Why do you seem to be so opposed to this?
Honestly, I've done business transformations as part of my professional career for a number of years, and the study that you have produced, I looked through it, and you're talking about all these mechanical benefits, but it's not really well described or closed. You're making assertions on court operation that you can't guarantee or promise. You're saying you could reduce the number of sessions, but that's not under your control. That's under the control of the judges. And then if, again, we disagree on this point, I look at the number of cases, you're just going to fold double the number of cases into one venue, and I don't see how that buys necessarily any efficiency. I also wonder whether or not the number of sessions that are cited are in fact all the times that the court needs to meet, whether for hearings. I'm not a lawyer, but I've spoken with Judge Sanchez, and he questions the number of some of the assumptions in your report.
Have you asked him why he won't meet with us and discuss it publicly?
I have asked him that, yes.
Can
And
you please ask him to meet with us publicly? I'll publish.
Hello. I hate to,
Okay.
Is this Judge Sanchez's attorney?
Cynthia, you're muted.
Yeah, keep it. We would welcome a public discussion with Judge Sanchez. He's the missing link.
And I don't know, while Cynthia's getting ready to come up, Roger, I disagree with your analysis. I think if you ask the Dutchess County sheriffs who have to bring prisoners back and forth from the courts, if they have to come up on a Tuesday for village court and a Wednesday for town court, that if they could come up once, that would be a much more effective use of their time. And I think you have to look at a whole bunch of those other factors. This is again, if you want to call it the user experience or the customer experience is vastly improved. So yes, while it's still the same number of cases, there are efficiencies that are created.
I actually think Lydia put it very well just a little while ago. There is a lot of concrete and mortar into running a court, but there's also the intangible issues that we've been discussing that would provide great improvement to our court processes. So Roger, if you're looking at just brick and mortar, you know, you're not looking at the whole picture.
Did you have any other questions, Roger?
well, I mean, I think we're at an impasse because I question whether all the possibilities for were considered. I don't see them in the report, frankly, and you know, everyone's citing the service benefit for the public. Again, I don't see any survey data of you know, the various law enforcement agencies here that they said it was a pain or not. And then I guess maybe I have a uneducated understanding of how the court system works, but all the benefits you're saying are also hand waving. You can't assume that that's what's going to happen. It's on the justice to determine the calendar and just let the due process run its course. So whether the sheriff comes up on 1 or 2 days, is that because that we don't have a consolidated court, or that just happens to be the way it works with the ability of the attorneys and the justice to meet?
It's because we don't have a consolidated court. Because village court and town court do not run concurrently, as they would, well, it would not be concurrently, it would all be town court. So yes, it is because there are two venues that they come up. And I think, Roger, you know, your idea that somehow, you know, you need to poll the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, would they prefer to come up to Rhinebeck once or twice a week? I mean, unless they're here for the food, I don't know. You know, I don't see any other answer than the fact that, yeah, it would streamline their operations. And they're busy enough as it is.
And I don't see why you can't run village and town court at the same time. Justice Kane could run town court at the same time Judge Sanchez is running village court.
Hey, Roger, would you like for the village to take over their own assessing too?
Yes, actually, I would.
Great.
I don't think we can. But
Well, all right, that's okay. Let's not get completely off track on this one. But you know, I also think it's worth mentioning that Judge Kane and Judge Sanchez they're both the judges for the village as well as the town. And so if they work for both entities, then they can't work for both entities in the same exact moment, unless they're only working for one of the entities. And so, you know, having like one of them take over the town docket and the other one take over the village docket, that's an interesting idea, but that's not actually how it currently works either. And so I think it's, you know, and also we're lucky that at the moment they happen to be the same two people. What happens one year if the village ends up electing two different judges and then there's two different judges in the town? You know, like there's ways of taking advantage of the knowledge base and, you know, the goodwill with the community, with the two people who are currently our elected judges. And if they can do the same job for less money and better services in one location that they're doing right now, it seems a little like a no-brainer. And you know, we're holding these conversations so that we can answer questions from the public for people who perhaps remain confused on issues. And it would be very helpful to have questions from people who remain confused on the actual purpose of this. Because you're right, this is a complex issue, and courts are complex, and all of the rest of it. And so I think the more information we can get out there, the better. And then at the end of the day, everybody makes their decision when they vote in the referendum. But I think using this particular moment for lobbying one way or the other is not helpful for those people who are here to just learn the information. So I think if we can keep all of these sort of questions out of the lobbying sphere and more into the information gathering sphere, I think that would be very helpful for everyone.
And
Thanks,
with that, I'd
Trustee
like to move on to
Lydia.
other people who have been waiting to ask questions rather, you know, that are still in the waiting room.
Yes. Pat Evans, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you to the board for having this session. It is helpful. My question is really a follow-up to the question, or a question that I asked in the last session. And it had to do with the village's contribution, or what the village would have to contribute for the court consolidation and specifically the renovation. And I think in the last session, I was told that there would not be a village contribution to the renovation. And
Pat,
I guess I'm a little.
Pat, this is Gary. Can I answer that part
Yep.
before we go on? That answer is still
Yep.
true.
Okay, so
The village is not
Then-
contributing to the renovations of the town hall.
Then I'm confused, and I would like some clarification, because I look at the consultant's report and I see that they talk about the grants that will be part of the financing for the renovation. And it does say that the town and village are eligible for the grants up to $200,000 each, or $4,000 total. And as part of those grants, it's my understanding that there is a contribution required in order to secure those grants. So my question, I guess, is, would the village apply for a grant as part of the renovation and consolidation?
As of this time, Pat, we are not planning as a village to apply for the grant to renovate town hall. That will be up to the town to do their plan when they want to be able to do those renovations. And that is on the town to do, not on the village.
It's totally on our cost.
So my question to Gary, I'm sorry, my question is really to Gary. So then, Gary, as you enter into some sort of an intermunicipal agreement with the town in regards to this, would your participation in a grant be part of that intermunicipal agreement?
No, Pat, there is no IMA for this. If we abolish the court, there's no IMA. The town takes over the court, and we do not have an intermunicipal agreement.
So is there any way the town can come back to you and say, we need your grant, we need a grant from the village in order to fund the renovation, and then there would be some sort of contribution at that point in time?
I imagine the town could ask for whatever they wanted. Whether the village wants to participate, that would be a decision by the board at that time.
Okay.
But that is not in the writing on the wall to abolish the village court.
Okay, well, I mean, it is in the consultant's report. I mean, they do talk about the town and village securing grants for 200,000 each to come up with the $400,000 estimate
Yeah, well,
for the renovation.
that $400,000 estimate Elizabeth can speak to because that involved a lot more, a consolidation and renovation of their facility, not the village facility.
Okay,
And if I may chime in, if, and this is strictly theoretical, if we did decide that we were going to make a $20,000 contribution towards getting a $200,000 grant, that seems like a pretty good trade-off. One year of $20,000 to save $45,000 per year. So even if there is some level of contribution, it's more than funded out of our cost savings.
I would tend to agree, and I don't disagree with that logic. I guess the other thing that concerns me is that that's the initial contribution, and I don't know how the town would structure something. So let's just say the renovation goes over budget. I mean, projects go over budget. I think we all know that. Projects go over budget. And so would then the village have any exposure to something like that? That's the concern that I guess I am trying to understand more from a financial standpoint. And it's a little different from what everybody else's concerns are so far on the call.
Yeah, Pat, I'm going to answer it again. The village is not participating in the renovation project of the town hall in applying for grants for the court for their improvements to, if and when they decide to do the court improvements to do that. As you know, they don't need to apply for the grants. We can move, the court can move over there now as is, and they can work on this as grants become available and do their renovation as they so seem fit.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you asked this question last time, and I appreciate you asking it again for clarity, but the answer is still the same.
Okay, I appreciate it. It's just that I had more time to go back and look at the consultant's report. I also had time to go and, the Q&A that came out that from the village also says that, for every dollar that Rhinebeck spends, we can receive 10 more. I guess that was a little confusing to me. It didn't say the town, it didn't say the village. It just was something that I wanted some clarity on. That's all. So I
And
do
that's a good, and Pat, that's a good point, because I apologize for not putting the town of Rhinebeck in that statement.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Cole, go ahead, please.
Hi. So somebody, I think it was Rick, mentioned that the village and town court can't run concurrently. I guess that, getting back to, would it be possible for the village and town court to meet in the same place on the same night? And, that way you don't have prisoners being brought up on two separate nights, in which case it sounds like the only redundancy would be two separate computer systems.
The courts set their own schedule. It's up to the justices the judges to determine when they're going to meet, where they're going to meet. We don't do that. That's actually one of the judicial functions. So I guess my answer would be is they've set up the schedule right now so it works for them. And that can be fine, but that's actually not in the purview of the village. It's really up to the judges themselves.
But there's nothing legally that prevents Judge Sanchez and Judge Kane saying we would both hold village and town court in one venue on the same evening.
Well,
I don't know that. There might be something.
If somebody could find that out for me, that would be very, that would be very helpful in my decision making. My primary objection to this really was the process. I'm not opposed to cost saving and eliminating redundancies. But if there's a way to accomplish the same thing by, a venue consolidation that, doesn't dissolve the village court, that's going to be my preference unless somebody can show me why that can't happen.
I'm missing the crux of your issue. Can you explain it again?
So, the primary reason I took interest in this was it seemed, and again, I don't think there was any intent on anybody's part, but it seemed undemocratic to me that a village board would eliminate somebody who was elected by the public by a resolution. So that is why, I think you had asked Roger why he took interest in this. That's why I took interest in it.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
So,
hey, Justin, I want to just come back to you. Is this your term eliminate? What do you mean by eliminate?
well, we're talking about dissolving the village court, correct?
We are talking about dissolving village court.
So that's, I guess, what I mean by eliminate.
Okay, but it dissolves out of the village, but transfers to the town. So it's still a court.
It's right.
It's not eliminated. It's just being done in the town.
Which brings me back to my initial question, which is how, what are we accomplishing other than, that we wouldn't be able to accomplish by a venue consolidation if the justices were willing to get on the same page and meet on the same night. So
I think we've said what we're accomplishing. We're going to have a full-time office open to the public. We're going to have one reporting system. We're going to have one secure courtroom. We could achieve a lot of that with an intermunicipal agreement, but we wouldn't be eligible for any grants whatsoever. We'd be spending all of our own money. I hear you about the undemocratic, but towns and villages are allowed to do this. It's a permissive referendum. And I just want to point out again that even though the signatures that were copied are flawed, your village board is still going ahead and holding this permissive referendum, even though it wasn't legally earned. So I think they are listening.
I appreciate that we ended up where we're ending up. Thank you.
I think just to return to your question about having them both run concurrently, I know that at least for the judges, you have to prepare your dockets. There's 2 computer systems. I'm not sure that it's easy to switch back and forth. And maybe, I know that Judge Kane was very clear that he thought this was a good idea. He thought, yes, we really should have one. He was very clear in this discussion that really one court would be a much more effective way to administer a justice here in the town and the village. If the justices wanted to get together and figure out how to run their schedules concurrently or something like that, maybe that's possible, but it's never ever been done.
Martina, I'd like to get on. It's already after 7, but I'd like to get to some of the people who have been waiting.
Yes.
In with their hands up, please.
Doug Crane,
Gary, can I say something really quick? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to say to Justin that Judge Kane is an alternate judge, so as far as him doing the full boat docket on the village, that is a wrinkle that would need to be dealt with. So Judge Kane is an alternate judge to Willie Sanchez from the village side.
Thank you.
Doug Crane.
Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi, Dodd.
I'm just getting educated in this issue. I just have one question. Both court systems use the same court software, not the same license, but the same company. Is it BA Business Automation Systems, or what court system do they use for their software in each of the courts?
I don't know the answer to that, Dodd. That's a good question. I know we have 2 separate service contracts for their software and their computer systems between town and village. So we, the village, pay a service contract, and I'm sure the town is doing the same. But in terms of the actual software, I don't know.
But is it the same, is it the same company?
Don't know.
Used in both offices, the same?
I don't think it
software
is. I'm going to step out on a limb here and say that it's not.
And Dad, why would that be important, if I may ask?
Well, I'm not sure yet. It's possible, for example, depending on what problem you're trying to solve, if, first of all, if both offices are using the same software, then if you consolidate, you reduce some training costs or cross-training, because I would suspect if you did consolidate offices that there would be times where the staff would help each other out, assuming there was more than one user of the court software, with the various usages of the system. So it'd be an advantage from that point of view. If you're trying to do a venue consolidation, but not necessarily a court consolidation, and the software, this gets a little techie, but if the software company you're using, you're paying 2 licenses now, it's possible that that software is designed so that 2 courts can share that software image for the price of one. And that would be a cost savings if you did a venue consolidation without a court consolidation. So
I'm going to ask.
Can I finish? Can I finish? May I finish, please?
Sure.
So I'm just saying that could be an advantage should you decide to do a venue consolidation without court consolidation. And there are various costs implied depending on who you're paying now and how much you're paying, and whether they price you by number of users or number of court cases. I don't know how their pricing works, but the pricing of the software certainly should have been part of the cost analysis. I apologize, I haven't looked at the document yet. Maybe it's there. That's just that was a question I think should be answered. Thank you.
We can see, I don't know what the line is.
Martina, somebody else?
Caroline Morton, you can go ahead.
Hi, I just want to say thanks to everyone for their time tonight. My question is, can someone from the village please outline the steps that will be followed to move forward, including how the village will get their information out, how they will lobby their side, so to speak, and when the vote is planned for?
Yes, Carolyn, so at our next village board meeting on November 10th, we will be setting the date for the special election. That'll be done in the public at our village board meeting. And then once we set that date, the village clerk will come up with the plan, and we will roll out that through our communication channels on how that vote and when and the times and locations and et cetera for that. But that has not been addressed yet.
And the communication channels are the site and Facebook?
Yeah, so we'll put it in the paper. We use the Kingston Freeman as our paper, as well as our Facebook page. If you're signed up for our village email, you'll get it as well there, as well as on our website.
Okay. Are we discussing doing a informational mailing with the date of the referendum?
Possible.
We have discussed that, but Vanessa, we haven't put a plan in place. I think that'd be a good discussion for November 10th.
Okay.
And the special election, I'm not familiar with the process. How soon? Is that 6 months? Is that?
No. Yeah. Sorry if you didn't hear it in the beginning, Caroline. According to state law, we have to have it within 10 days, no sooner than 10 days, and no later than 60 days from the filing of the petition. The petition was filed on October 19th.
Yeah, I joined a little late. Thank you.
No problem. Good questions.
Josh Pulver, go ahead.
Hey, I just want to ask a question to Roger. Roger, you there? What math is it that we have to prove or produce to convince you?
I think that honestly, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that you're going to double the number of cases heard in the town building, and that's going to provide a better service experience for everybody. And we're only talking about a very small nominal cost. And with other possibilities or options that we've discussed tonight, venue consolidation, even within surrounding communities, that's what I'm questioning, right? So if we're looking at saving money and providing a better experience, why force this now, especially when I expect the state budgets are going to be very tight with COVID and everything.
It's a cost-benefit analysis. Basically.
It's a cost-benefit analysis, yeah.
For
Frankly, the
new
report
model
doesn't.
versus the old model.
Correct. So
Okay.
what's your current state and what are ideal future states? How many cases can a judge typically manage or handle? What's the benchmark? Where's an example of a good consolidation that's happened in New York? So I'm all for saving money, but let's not be so quick to force something when there are other options that I didn't get to see here.
Fair enough.
Cole, go ahead.
Hi, just following up on Dodd's question, and I think it's a really important one because, transitioning from one software system to another isn't always the least expensive or easiest thing to do. I think that, if we don't know whether they're working off of the same system and what, would be involved if they're not to consolidating the current, village and town court onto the same system, that seems like really important information to know if that's kind of the primary, benefit to doing the solution of the village court versus a venue consolidation.
Cole, I would just comment that the one thing that we're talking about here is for the situation now and for all the years that follow. So yes, there may be some, and it's not in there, and I don't know, the court computer systems are black boxes. They are completely separate from any of the village functions, and that's for security and privacy issues. But I would say, so even if there is some level of training that has to be done, new software, somebody has to be brought up to speed. I mean, we will have the clerks. We're hiring the clerks. So we have a year or two of some level of additional expense. It's certainly not going to be $45,000 a year. And then whatever happens in the out years, that's all good for us too. So while yes, we probably should expect there will be some additional changeover costs in the long run. And that's, I think, what we have to look at here. In the long run, this is a much better way to run the court systems. Every transition is going to encounter its bumps. But I think we have to understand that we're really doing this. This is not for the Rhinebeck of today, but it's also for the Rhinebeck of 2050.
Yeah, I don't think that it's determinative. I just think that it's, one of the trustees raised the point that the systems, consolidating the systems would be one of the major benefits. And without knowing that information, it's difficult to identify whether there is a short-term benefit and a long-term benefit.
Well, we pay for 2 licenses. We're only going to get one. There'll be one in the future.
Yeah.
Justin, good questions. We need to find the answer. I know today the judges run their court systems. They run them in the village and they run it in the town. Again, I don't know the answer if they're the same software, in both or not. I don't know what the court uses for their software because that's removed from us. Good. It's a good question to ask our judges.
Thank you.
Roger, you had another question?
Yeah, I guess it's less a question and a comment. I guess, there are a lot of good questions and comments raised here and ideas. And I am, I guess, a very cautious person. And you did raise it. This isn't about Rhinebeck today. It's about Rhinebeck in 2050. So I think it deserves a fuller study. Because there is no closed plan described.
And Roger, that's a little bit of a chicken and an egg question, because until we know we're going to consolidate, I don't know what the town can do to put together a better plan. And I believe that would be if there was the abolishment of the village court into the town, there's going to be some work that has to be done. We addressed this at the last meeting, and is it a matter of carrying the files across, or is there other issues associated with doing that? I believe that has to all be worked out, but the question is, do we do it before, or do we wait to see if we're going to consolidate? Because we do have time. We have until March.
I guess I'd rather do the thought exercise without the force of consolidation. What happens you can dissolve the village court and you're working through these issues and March comes up and it's like, oh, hey, I didn't realize X, Y, or Z. We're not talking, millions of dollars or 50% of the budget. We're talking about 3%.
Roger, two questions. As the highway representative, I will say that $45,000 buys me a third of a mile of paving. So it's not inconsequential to what we're doing. And the other point I have here is that we can come up with a million possible scenarios what's going to happen. But at a certain point, I feel like you have to say, look, this is what's likely. This is what's going to happen. I mean, a meteor could hit us tomorrow. It's true. But I'm not living my life around the fact that, there's these other contingencies that are out there. I think when you look at the plan and you see what it says, it's really solid. And that while you're saying, yes, there are some things that need to be ironed out, first of all, I don't think they're showstoppers. And second of all, basically you're saying, what if? I can come up with a million what if scenarios. The thing is that we have a really solid plan in front of us. And it seems to, I would even say, we have some room, at least financially, for some contingencies. So it's hard to answer every what if scenario because they're infinite.
Caroline?
Hi, just one last really quick thing for someone who's coming into this kind of late and is not that great with it to begin with. I heard the mayor do this several times, and it's probably happened many times, but I think as the board and the town board, I think everyone has to be really careful about the use of the word consolidation. It's really can throw, you're going to be going out to the general public who don't understand, have a view, and it's just, I think it's critical that you all use the specific words for what we're talking about.
That's true. That's right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I would just like to say thank you to everybody who participated, and I know, we have our thoughts and we have a lot of conversations, but I'm really glad that we can move forward in a conversation. And I want to thank everybody for their questions and their comments, and it does help us do a better job.
Thank you. I'd still like
Thank you, everyone.
Sanchez to invite us if there is another meeting.
All right, we'll get there.
All right, everybody have a great day and enjoy the nice weather right now we're having. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.